Hello and welcome to the first in the series of the videos Ask the Midwife. First question that's been put forward to me is, I'm scared of tearing during birth and is there anything I can do to prevent this? Hi, I'm Deborah and it's my aim to help every pregnant woman I meet to feel more empowered to birth their babies through either gaining knowledge about the process if they're unclear of it, or learning tools and techniques to cope with labour and birth. Sometimes it's to help the support person realise what a huge job it is and that they can actually enhance the woman's experience of having a great birth when they've got really good support. And sometimes it's about helping a woman to overcome the fear that's associated with labour and birth. So I'm really proud that my business name reflects all of this. What I do on my days off being a midwife is I run a business empowered to birth. And I've been helping women for over 5 years and their support person to prepare for the most amazing birth possible, no matter what twist and turn they encounter on the day of their baby's birth. Now, part of the miracle of birth is the amazing ability of the vagina and the perineum to expand for the baby to navigate its way through the birth canal unaided. But before we go into the details about what we can do to prevent the damage, first of all, what is the perineum? Well, let me explain. When we think of the baby growing in the pelvis and during the birth process, it has to navigate its way through the pelvis, around the bend and through the pelvic floor muscle, which is at the bottom of the pelvis, and the skin on the outside of that. Part of that is the perineum. Now, I just want to draw a little image for you, just so that we can get our anatomy all correct. At the front, we have the clitoris. Sexual pleasure, all that occurs here. The urethra, where we pass urine. The amazing vagina with its elasticity in the skin. And at the back there is the anus with a very special and strong anal sphincter muscle around there. And the labia, which is the lips around that area. Now, the vagina, where the baby comes out, the skin between the vagina and the anus is what we refer to in medical terms as the perineum. And this is this lady's question about what we can do to minimise the damage in the perineum. Well, let me just explain what happens during the birth process. So as the baby's head appears at the entrance to the vagina, it starts to stretch a little bit. And this happens nice and slowly. We see the baby's head appear and then it disappears again. And then the next time the baby's head appears, the stretch is a little bit more. And the baby might slip back again. And then the baby might come forward and stretch this perineal skin a little bit more. And this is what we call crowning, when the widest part of the baby's head is coming through the perineal area. Now sometimes there's a little bit of a tear at the back of the perineum between the vagina and the anus. A little bit of tearing into that first skin layer and sometimes deeper into the muscle layer. So this question is, what can we do to prevent the damage in that perineal area? Well, there are a lot of things that can be done. Look, first of all, I won't lie. There is a numbing or a burning sensation as that perineum expands to stretch and allow the baby to make its way into the world. But we have been perfectly designed with the elasticity in our tissues to allow this to happen. And for some, a little bit of grazing in that first skin layer. Some, it goes a little deeper into that muscle layer, as I suggested earlier. But hopefully with careful preparation and patience at birth, we can prevent any damaging tears which might go near the anal muscle or even into that anal sphincter. So some of the things which are going to help is good health and nutrition, which allows for strong, healthy, elastic tissue, and then that's also better for postpartum recovery and healing. This is something that needs to be discussed with your midwife or your care provider during the antenatal period to ensure that you're having a balanced nutritional diet that is going to give you good skin elasticity and health. Making healthy choices in food is really important. Another thing that might be helpful is perineal massage, especially for first-time mums, starting at around about 34 weeks. So this is with partners helping, and if you think of this elastic band as being the vaginal opening, allowing a lot of stretch to let the baby through. With clean hands, short fingernails, 2 fingers into the vaginal opening, and with the thumb massaging between the vagina and the anus. So massaging in this area here. Some recommend using evening primrose oil, others suggest maybe sweet almond oil or unscented almond oil is good for that. Now, I don't say that this is something you have to do, and the evidence doesn't really say that this really is hugely beneficial in preventing tears, but what I believe it's very helpful for a woman who maybe is not in touch with some sensations in her body. She gets used to the feeling of that area stretching. So when that happens in labour, she's not going to be so fearful of those sensations that are coming from her body, and she can actually work with that. Some of you might have heard of an Epino, which is a dilating device which can be used to increase that vaginal elasticity. However, I don't see any benefit to dilating a woman's vagina up to 10 centimetres without actually being in labour, without the hormones and without the natural lubrication of birth. So this is not something I would recommend, even if people have said that they have not had any tears after they've used it. What is the long-term effect of dilating that vaginal area multiple times before birth? Another suggestion is that can be helpful is prepare to push, or as I teach in the positive birth programming, learning techniques to breathe baby out. Now, it's important to be in control and not use explosive pushing, and when women are fearful of that sensation and push really hard to get that baby past, sometimes the damage can be done by pushing too hard, too fast, and pushing baby all out in one go. So learning techniques to breathe the baby out slowly, listening to the cues of the midwife as to when to just pant rather than push, it's really important. Another thing that's really helpful is keeping that perineum warm. So your midwife is going to apply a warm compress to the perineum during the second stage of labour, and this helps in 2 ways. Firstly, by soothing that area, and also secondly by preventing any tissue damage due to that moisture and that warmth that's there. What we have found though, that when women are encouraged to hold their breath, bear down, turn purple in the face while they're pushing, that's called the Valsalva breathing, it actually does damage to that pelvic floor area. It can cause fetal distress by holding the breath, it can cause exhaustion in the mother, and it actually increases the danger of perineal tears by holding your breath and going purple. That's why it's really important to learn these bearing down breathing techniques that are taught in the positive birth program. A really important thing to help prevent damage to the perineum is consider the birthing position. So when a woman is in the all fours position, kneeling, squatting, leaning forward, she's got a lot of gravity helping to bring that baby down, and the expulsive efforts are a lot less. One of the worst positions is being on your back, being up in stirrups, and sadly this would be the position that would be used when we're talking about maybe having an epidural in labour or requiring instrumental birth, that is using forceps or a vacuum. Now, being mindful of management of this second stage and observing what we call the rest and be thankful phase. So when we get that cervix to be fully open, there is a bit of a pause between when we get the urge to bear down, and just because that cervix is open doesn't mean we're ready to start pushing. The baby still has to do a little bit of turning before it gets into the position to be born. So if we can prevent premature bearing down or premature pushing, we're going to reserve our energy for when it's needed, right at the last when baby is being born. Another thing which is really helpful is the correlation between what's going on in our jaw and our lips and our pelvic area. So we know that when we have got a loose and relaxed jaw, our perineum and our pelvic floor area is loose and relaxed, and it's going to allow opening and space for that baby to move through. And in my experience, one of the most beneficials is a trusting relationship with a midwife. So where you've got to know the midwife during your pregnancy, you've built up that rapport, you have had conversations with your midwife about how the birth is going to unfold, and then when the midwife asks you to stop pushing and to pant through the head crowning, and that trusting relationship is going to be one of the most important tools in preventing perineal damage. So I hope this information has been helpful to you, and I hope it gives you some comfort in the knowledge that there is a lot that you can do to avoid perineal damage during birth. So if you've enjoyed this video, I'd love to hear from you. Stay tuned, there'll be more answers to your questions from a midwife, and I would love to hear if you have a specific question that you would like answered. Please get in touch with me. My details are on my Facebook page, Instagram, or on my website, and I would love to hear what your particular question is. Or if you'd like to do a birthing class with me, either face-to-face or via Zoom, you can learn a lot more techniques, not just about how to preserve your pelvic floor and your perineum for birth, but there's a lot of other techniques I teach in my positive birth class, and I'd love to hear from you. So thank you very much for listening, and log in again next week and we'll have another answer to a question from your midwife. Bye.